Alrighty. Good afternoon, commissioners. Welcome back, and back to you, Chair Harden.
Well, thank you, Clerk Moss. Welcome everyone to the afternoon edition of the work session for the Washington County Board of Commissioners and the CWS Board of Directors. We have a full agenda for the remainder of the afternoon. So our next, this is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined by Commissioner Nafisa Fai, Vice Chair Commissioner Pam Treese, and Commissioner Jerry Willey. Commissioner Snyder is excused. So we're going to dive into our first afternoon topic, Metro's Regional Housing Coordination Strategy Proposed Actions. Turn it over to you, Ms. Angie.
And I'm going to turn it over to the team.
Oh, terrific. Welcome.
Okay, well, good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Stephen Roberts. I'm your Director of Land Use and Transportation.
And for the record, I'm Molly Rogers. I'm your Director of Housing Services in the Housing Authority. I use she, her pronouns.
And so I'll maybe, get us started here. So we didn't have a chance to practice beforehand because Molly was just down doing some good work at Metro. So anyway, I want to, before we get started, give a real big shout out to Aaron Doyle for really helping us pull all of this information together and really put it through the government relations perspective and make our various input between our departments into something useful, we hope. So shout out to her. She's at a conference today or otherwise would be here with us too.
Her ears are burning.
I hope so, yeah, in a good way. So we'll walk you through a little bit of background about why we're here and what the topic is. We'll then run through staff analysis of some proposed actions that Metro has put forward as part of its regional housing coordination strategy, which is in draft form right now. And then the questions that we have for your board to consider are on the screen now, but basically, do you have any other additional information needs? What comments or concerns do you have? And then would you like for staff to submit the letter that we drafted and was included in your board packet, which I just realized I don't have a copy of here. But we'll wing it. We'll get there. Okay, and for myself. Oh, for one. Okay, so a little bit of Okay, so why are we doing a regional, or why is Metro, I should say, doing a regional housing coordination strategy? The short answer is because the state said so, and so we're all here. We're all here pulling together in the same direction. On the slide, you'll see a series of some legislative actions that were taken that are guiding this work that's happening. And this is really part of the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis, or the ONA larger program. And so that's a program that is happening at both the state, regional, and local levels. And so the idea here is that in the metro area, the state has required Metro to develop a regional housing coordination strategy so that at least in the region, it feels like hopefully we're going to all be pulling in the same direction. Obviously, this is all fairly simplified. So we have a lot of different, as I mentioned, levels of government working here. And we're all working together, really trying to boost housing production, essentially at a wide range of incomes and like a wide variety of housing options. So that's the broader objective. So the needs are daunting. There's no one level of government that can solve this problem on its own. And so therefore, we see clearly the value in this kind of regional and statewide coordination as our best hope to move forward. I just would point out the affordable housing bond was a great example. So we have a lot of expertise at the local level and how to develop and operate housing, but we needed money. And so Metro was able to find a pathway to bring funds to that process. And so we've, and I say we, mostly Molly and her team and the other jurisdictions around the region have all been very successful in bringing a lot of that affordable housing to bear. So but this effort is even broader than just what we would call capital A affordable housing. This is really, again, all housing types at all different funding levels. Metro, just for context, has indicated that there may be a need for as many as 9,000 homes each year, and about 2/3 of those to be affordable. So it's a pretty daunting task. And then I thought it was interesting context too. The state published some housing targets for all jurisdictions across the state last year, I believe that was. And so I looked up our number again because I couldn't remember it, but it's about 26,000 housing units over 20 years for the unincorporated parts of Washington County. So that's the rural area plus the urban unincorporated area.
26,000.
26,000. So about over about 1,300 a year.
But you said Metro said the region needs 9,000 housing units
Each year.
each year. Got it.
Right. So we're a part of that 9,000 target.
Okay, so the 2,600 is just now into the future. 26,000,
26,000 is over a 20-year time
20
frame.
years. Thank you.
And again, just for the unincorporated parts of the county. So Hillsborough, I want to say theirs is probably in the 10,000 range. So it's everybody's being asked to take on a lot here.
Yep.
And then I want to say, just for context, I would say we probably issue between 700 and 800 building permits per year for single family, and then maybe in the range of 200 to 300 apartments per year. So we
200 to 300
apartment units. Yeah.
That's
So
just the county permitting.
correct. Yeah, just again outside the cities, and so we're not hitting that 1,300 mark today, right? We're probably 300 to 400 short, I would say, of that. Okay.
And these numbers are blowing my mind because when I was a Metro counselor, and we had our first true study during my first few years as a Metro counselor, there were some pretty high numbers then too.
Mm-hmm.
So, sadly, we've had consistency
Right.
of need.
Right.
Decades.
Yeah. And in the Metro report, they do a nice job of providing some good background. I mean, we've been falling behind in terms of the need, at least since the Great Recession. And so there's just been this accumulating shortage of housing being developed every year. And so we're now certainly feeling the effects of that, and it's going to take some time to dig back out.
We being both the private market and the public sector.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So what is a regional strategy? Well, this is a 6-year strategy, and it's intended really to identify how Metro and the local agencies are going to coordinate to try to hit some of these aggressive state housing production targets. So on the screen here, you'll see some information that is copied really out of state statute. And so it defines what kinds of actions, measures, and policies, or that it needs to include actions, measures, and policies, and coordinating actions that will help promote the development of needed housing and the range of housing types and at various economic levels. And then I want to specifically call out item D there, actions that affirmatively further fair housing. So that's an important federal requirement. And then the regional housing strategy may also include actions that you see spelled out here, but coordinating resources and things that will support, again, production of needed housing. Trying to just skim these for anything that seems really pertinent here, but yeah. Okay, that's a really quick overview. A little bit of process background. So this timeline indicates that Metro started this process in February. They're looking to wrap up by December. The green star is where we are right now. And so, as I mentioned earlier, there's a public comment opportunity right now on the draft strategy, and that runs through tomorrow. And you can see that through this process, there's been engagement and data collection. There's been some evaluation of potential actions, and then again, heading towards that adoption at the end of the year. So there has been a workshop, or a work group, I should say, of experts that are both in housing planning and development. And we've been fortunate to have 2 county staff on that panel, one from Land Use and Transportation, the senior planner, Ann Kelly, who unfortunately wasn't able to be here with us in person, but I think is listening online, and Jill Chin, one of the assistant directors in housing. So we're fortunate to have their support. And
So if I could pose a question, perhaps you have it answered later or want to answer it later. When I look at timelines from Metro about developing a regional strategy, it then leads to a second question for me is when do they see themselves checking in with regard to compliance or any other type of gauging how the progress on the strategy? Is that known at this point?
that might be one to phone a friend.
Oh, and you don't have to answer it now.
Okay.
If before the end of the presentation, you know, great. Otherwise, if you could just follow up with the board on when that is, that would be great.
Okay. And my superficial understanding is that there will be annual reporting that's anticipated on production from each local agency throughout the course of time. And then specifically to the question about how will Metro be gauging its own effectiveness, that's a question that I couldn't answer. So.
And also there's the follow-up of clarity with regard to any compliance.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to launch us into, we're going to hang tough with us. We're going to go through 16 proposed actions one by one here. So as it says on the slide, there were 16 actions that are proposed across 6 topic areas. The topic areas are accelerating housing production. So that's the first 4. Research and assessment is 2 additional actions. Convening and coordinating is 2 more actions. New tools, I think it's 3. Policy 1, and then funding and cross-sector collaboration is the final 2. So, and as we go through each of the slides, you'll see those topic areas at the top of the slide as we jump into the recommendations. And so then Molly and I will be swapping back and forth here as we go. So
Yeah.
the first.
I'll start with the first. So we were able to divvy up the 16, some more aligned with LUT, some more aligned with housing services. What we did, staff took an analysis and generally made a recommendation whether at the staff level we would support, we would maybe ask for clarification or ask for modifications or request that Metro remove them. And a lot of this is really related to us better understanding what Metro's role is reflective of all the other partners that are touching affordable housing, and that will be a consistent theme. So the first related to what we say housing pre-development and technical assistance. Our general recommendation is that they reconsider this role because would be pre-development and technical assistance for housing production would be a new line of business for Metro, and there are other entities and lending partners that do this work already. For affordable housing, generally your pre-development loans would be the same as your permanent gap financer. So going to a separate lender would create quite a bit of confusion with your development partners. And this allows for more streamlined project decisions. It's not a role that Metro played in the housing bonds nor the SHS. For us, it really was the Housing Authority of Washington County. We believe we would need more understanding to better understand Metro's role in these new activities, and we would encourage Metro to consider a role that would not put them in a direct line of financing of direct projects.
Since you're taking us through the set of 16, before we move off of each of these, I just want to ping the board and see if you have questions on that particular proposed action. It's just do you understand what this proposed action is and the Metro staff recommendation? And if the answer is no on either one of those, then please, we want to be on this journey together. So are we okay on this first one?
Yes.
I do have a question about this could impact the 2040 grant funding availability. Could speak more to that.
So we thought about all the different funding sources that Metro could be in charge of that could go towards pre-development and technical assistance. For bonds, you need to be able to capitalize those funds. There's but the one grant fund could be the 2040 grant fund that could go towards potentially technical assistance. We just wanted to flag this because of all the things that 2040 grant funds could go towards. Is this the best use of those funds? That's just a question.
And nothing in their charter that says they can't do this.
Correct.
I think it's just a duplicate. Just
There could be technical assistance where these funds could maybe go more towards middle income or workforce housing. There's a gap in the system for those sort of activities, but we just want to make sure that these funds don't duplicate other efforts.
I'm on it too.
Okay, moving on. Next one, Stephen.
Hey. Like we're at the weekend anchor desk here. Or the weekend update desk. Anyway, so second task is, or second action is expanding funding for brownfield cleanup. And so this is something that both LUT and the GR team have played a role in over a number of years. And I'm sure, Chair Harrington, you remember those days. So that's good work, and we support continuing with this work. I think the biggest challenge that we probably didn't note on the slide here is that there's really just been a historic kind of unwillingness, if you will, from the state to really put significant dollars into helping fund brownfield cleanups. And so I think the intent's there. We've got great inventories. We know where a lot of those opportunity sites are located. We just need additional resources to bring those. So we fully support the recommendation in this case.
And I'm in agreement with you that one of the barriers is the state just has not been willing to invest into the program. But the need exists all throughout our region and elsewhere in the state.
And I heard you positively on this recommendation, but the impact to county capacity says none. Wouldn't it be positive?
We don't anticipate that we would directly benefit from it necessarily, but we would love to see additional support brought to, again, helping with pay for brownfield cleanup. So it could help on the development side. For instance, if you had a potential brownfield site that needed cleanup and there was some available funding to do that.
But if Metro was to continue their current and past program work, it would not add to the county staff workload.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the none means.
Right. All right, number 3. This action is funding local housing production strategy implementation. And so we think that, yes, this is definitely a good one that we want to get behind and can support. And so the idea would be that Metro might open up a new grant program or an existing grant program for some additional purposes. That would be, I think, the 2040 grants. And so we, again, think that additional funding would definitely help us offset the costs to complete the new requirements that we, the county, are required to do. We have to do a housing needs analysis and a housing production strategy. And that's a new line of work for us. And so certainly funding for consultant support or technical assistance would be very valuable here too. And again, the same comment that by utilizing the 2040 planning grants for this purpose, that may reduce the amount that's available for other purposes.
So this is one, I believe I understand this item, and I'll just lead now with, before we get to the letter, that this is an area where I understand, Ms. Angie, loud and clear that our staff is constrained, and they're already spoken for through our biennium work plan, LUT specifically. So we cannot do this work without additional funding or without there being a need to not do all the other things that we're currently programmed to do with the current biennium work plan. So I think you've put it politely here, and I'm being much more finite and clear that we cannot do this work without the full resources to do the work.
Mhm.
So it's more than support, it's need.
Yeah, all of it, not just a portion of it.
Mhm.
We don't have the resources to do it, period. With a open invitation for Ms. Angie to correct my understanding. So,
Yeah, and my understanding is there may be some state funding available to help support the work too, but again, as per usual, it's never enough, and there's not enough to go around. So.
any other questions on number 3 or comments? Okay, onward home.
Okay, number 4. So this idea was really creating a regional pool of housing professionals for technical assistance. And so the intent of this would really be to benefit smaller jurisdictions. So we're not that, but we certainly know that there are a number of smaller jurisdictions in Washington County that we think could also benefit from this work. And I think maybe following the rising tide lifts all boats argument, I think helping to support those smaller cities could only, I think, be helpful for our overall countywide housing production here too.
So can I test my understanding or classification versus yours? In my mind, we have the larger jurisdictions. So Beaverton, Hillsborough, Washington County for the UUAs.
Mhm.
Then there's what I call a middle range, Tigard, Tualatin, Sherwood, Forest Grove.
Mhm.
And then they're smaller. Durham, King City.
Right,
No, they're not in the UGB.
right.
Then maybe Cornelius is between small and medium.
Hmm.
Did I miss somebody that you're thinking of as small? I'm just trying to gauge.
Yeah, no, I think you've got them, and it's I'm not clear what they mean by a smaller jurisdiction here, but I think just based on your kind of
Well, everybody's
rough
compared
categorization.
to Portland.
But I think based on your general categorization, I think there's probably, I would assume, smaller, and in a lot of the legislative rules around housing, there have been breakpoints at jurisdictions with 25,000 or more, or 10,000 or more, or 2,500 or more. So I think I can't remember, I want to say maybe below 10 might be considered smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Something in that range, yeah.
Any other questions or comments on number 4? Third to 5.
Next slide of research and assessment. For this one, we would recommend Metro continue to evaluate the lessons learned before going forth and embarking on new initiatives of the implementation of the 2018 Affordable Housing Bond, but make sure it's in a way that doesn't duplicate its role in ensuring equitable access to regulated affordable housing. Just by background, all HUD, what we call participating jurisdictions, are charged with assessing barriers to fair housing, and each owner of affordable housing has the onus of affirmatively furthering fair housing through its tenant selection process. So it's actually a little bit unclear what Metro's is trying to what they're trying to achieve through this proposal. And we would just welcome and encourage more research on best practices to strengthen fair housing and equitable access to affordable housing, as long as it doesn't overlay additional regulations beyond what we already do in housing code and enforcement.
So it sounds to me from your description where that technical clarification is also needed with regard to the state statute.
I think every government body is charged with furthering fair housing. It's just a matter of to what degree and the technical onus. And I think we just want to clarify that with Metro of what they're trying to intend with their role with this goal.
Well, they might turn around and say, well, we're just trying to do what the statute requires. And that's where locally and regionally, there may be some work to go back to the state and get either a rule that blesses the definition or a technical fix in terms of legislative for the statute.
That's a good flag.
But that's a implementation level of detail. I think I understand why you have the recommendation you do and what you're getting at. Other colleagues? Okay. Number 6.
Okay.
Oh, the fun design.
So building upon lessons learned and best practices, again, from the 2018 of Metro Affordable Housing Bond and their transit-oriented development grant program, it looks like here Metro is seeking to strengthen requirements and incentives for community participation and co-design in their development and operations of affordable housing. We support Metro's goal of providing capacity building for community-based and culturally specific organizations to participate in affordable housing development and operations, but we really feel like we need more clarity on what Metro means by requirements, incentives for community participation, and co-design. So under the Metro Affordable Housing Bond, Metro asks each development project to adhere to really strong community engagement standards. And in some cases, it was work that they actually led themselves. But however, you need to make sure every developer and owner is the one making sure they're weighing the costs and benefits of each development decision. And so going forward, we recommend Metro doesn't set up expectations that with a community that a developer will not be able to deliver upon. So we just need further clarity, I think, on this particular proposal.
Colleagues, you clear on this? I'll just comment to me that this sounds like a solution looking for a problem. And everything I've heard and read about every single project in the affordable housing bond portfolio, as well as their TOD grants, they've been proud of every single one of those. So that's where, to me, it looks like a solution looking for a problem. They're aspiring to do something they haven't imagined themselves doing before. And that's number 6.
Number 7, this proposed action is to research, evaluate, and identify opportunities to advance innovative and non-low-income housing tax credit approaches to housing development, construction, financing, and ownership. So we think this is in reaction to the low-income housing tax credit program being of sort of scarce or more competitive in the last few years. It also remains the biggest funding stream of all affordable housing development and preservation. And there does appear to be growing interest to find solutions to lower the cost of affordable housing development and ways to lower operating costs, which we also applaud and we do every single day. And this is really just, I think in general, this is something that all developers and owners of rental properties are always seeking, to lower development costs and lower operating costs. So we would encourage Metro to clarify its really broad scope for research, which they included everything from building types, everything modular to certified sort of CLT, to other kinds of funding sources, to different types of ownership, like social housing, homeownership, land trust, partnerships, and different operating cost drivers. So without more, I think, clarity on what their focus really is and what their goals are, this could be a cursory review without really necessarily understanding the being as practical with implementation to those solutions that on the ground. So it's a very broad set of things that they have proposed to research. We would recommend a sort of a tighter, smaller scope to get us focused more on housing production with experts that can get us closer to feasibility.
So without clarity or clarification, it would move to reconsider from the sounds of it.
Yeah, just at what point in time, and I didn't know which one of these proposed actions this question would fall under, so I'll just ask it here for innovative. At what point in time are they going to propose that we reduce our permit fees to make affordable housing more affordable from our standpoint? I mean, has that conversation been had? Because it's been floated before, that we need to be reducing fees and all of that stuff. Has it been discussed at all in this?
We think in future slides, they do allude to incentives, which could be like an SEC waiver. But I don't know if that's what you're alluding to, Commissioner.
Well, it's just the permit
the
fees for
fees.
just building permits, and so for housing. So we would reduce our fees to accommodate for that.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Have they tried that? Yes.
Mhm.
Can we imagine them asking for that again? Yes, potentially.
Well, and I was just wondering where though in these proposals that conversation would come up. And so I hear that. I expect that to come back around. It is.
Metro strategies tend to be aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I felt like there was one of the recommendations as I'm flipping through them, it's not jumping out at me. Maybe, it was under action 15. Maybe we could.
So we'll
touch
get
on it
there.
a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
Any further questions or comments on 7? Okay, onward to 8.
Okay, back to you, Stephen.
All right. So action number 8, middle housing assessment work. So this is a statutory requirement that's required of Metro in this process, and so we support doing the work. And we think that the assessment could definitely help identify some where we've had successful implementation of middle housing policies and where those can improve outcomes. One thing we want to be mindful of on this and several other recommendations that we really want to avoid any inadvertent duplication of effort between what we have to do at the state level and at the regional level, and then what we need to do on our own to meet our own requirements. And so we're just interested in ensuring that in the implementation of this, that it doesn't create a duplication.
And I'll just add on this one, the cities and the county for the UUA have fully allowed what is enabled, right? And but we can't force the development community to. The control that local jurisdictions have is on the allowed zoning, right? And so that's the way the local governments can be directive. But beyond that, we can't force them to go beyond what is already allowed, enabled. So.
Yeah, and you raise a good point, Chair. This is a new sort of housing product, right? Relatively new, and so I think in a lot of cases we were hearing that developers and maybe even more importantly lenders just weren't quite sure what to make of it and how to finance it, and would it make money? And so I think it's still maybe a little bit in that kind of early days time frame.
Well,
but
and yet
a number of units on the ground.
Successful build out in Beaverton, South Cooper Mountain, in North Plains, new UGB areas in Tigard River Terrace. We're seeing it go through all the planning process with King City. So it's not like the region hasn't been supportive of this. In fact, I think the local governments have been supportive of this, but there are barriers related to the market that are outside of our control.
Right, exactly.
I was surprised to see that that action was low on the Metro report, where it said needed house, the impact it will have, versus the others. Like it was both low, and I thought, middle housing was an exciting, innovative idea that at least in those conversation days, I thought it was going to be part of the solution of addressing this housing crisis, because you're identifying new participants potentially in this housing. But in the Metro report, it was low on their scale. So I don't know how they used it. I tried to reread the report last night and figure it out, but their scaling there, it was low. So perhaps this is not something that's going to be having more resources to do this work.
Yeah, and I think the idea here, I was getting a slightly longer description back out, but it really is looking to, oops, I flipped the page already. But it's really looking at identifying best practices and barriers. And so, just really trying to be, I think, a resource to help guide jurisdictions where maybe it hasn't taken off for some reason, or, just providing, again, some of those best practices that would help facilitate getting it done. So I think it's one, again, we can fully support.
Number 9.
9 to 11, as you may have seen in our draft letter, staff is recommending that the proposed actions 9 through 11 get removed from consideration, because these are kind of each variations of a theme of what appears to go beyond the original scope of the regional housing coordination strategy. So these seems more like strategies that have emerged from some advisory body or a conversation, and they're important housing issues, just perhaps not as closely tied to the legislative intent. So this proposal is to develop an affordable housing stabilization strategy to respond to industry-wide challenges due to operating costs, resident needs, what they say lack of coordination, alignment with homeless and supportive services, which I would argue is not necessarily the same factor here in Washington County. These are industry-wide issues that will not be solved by Metro's involvement, but rather could benefit from more streamlined governance or regulatory relief from direct funders. And this is not the same coordination issue we see in Washington County.
I think those are very important points.
Because the issue is the framing of it.
Excuse me?
The issue is the framing, how the strategy, this action item is framed, rather than.
We feel like it's beyond their scope. Gets into more direct solvency issues of operations.
Any other questions on this one? Number 10.
All right, similar. This one is to evaluate and improve Metro SHS funded regional long-term rent assistance policies and implementation. Again, kind of important intent, wrong room, to address what they call portability and connect available vouchers to vacant regulated affordable housing. First of all, it's really the housing authorities are the ones that implement ARLA. It's just an important point. And second, we don't consider the strategy really to be relevant to Metro's role in the ONA work. So while we believe evaluation of ARLA is important and is valued SHS, it is consistent in Metro's role in the SHS arena. Our related jurisdictional partners haven't had a chance to really engage in this strategy, particularly related to the regional housing work related to production. And it also appears to be more of an emerging Multnomah County and Portland strategy to fill vacant units. And this is not an issue we experience here in Washington County.
When I look at 9, 10, 11, and I know we're not at 11 yet, but are we also looking at, it looks like overreach to me. Is that part of what we're saying here as well when you say remove?
It does appear scope creep, but that's overreach.
Yeah,
that's another word for that.
Yeah, I like scope part rather than. Yeah, and I was thinking exactly the same thing as we're going through this. I'm thinking, okay, this is something Metro is moving newly into in some regards, and just wondering if they're trying to expand where they actually the lane they should be in. So
I think we have to think about it as the SHS has its own governance structures already in place that should be looking at these things. We just didn't want to blur those lines in this proposed work.
Also county work.
And this is really housing authority, our laws being implemented by housing authorities.
Oh, that's what I, yes.
But the light bulb went off in my head with this one, where it seems to me like this set of 9, 10, and maybe 11 goes into what I foresee as their strategy of create the subcommittee for all things housing. Like in their view, JPAC does all things transportation, and give them all kinds of perceived control and authority that doesn't necessarily help change the on the ground conditions in a majority of the jurisdictions that make up our region. So I hadn't really thought about this strategy they've been moving on for the last 3 years of creating this new housing body that reports to the council. So thank you. Any other questions or comments on number 10?
I don't have a question, Molly, but I do agree with you, and I did in preparation for this presentation and this work session, I do agree that I did see the water being muddied around the housing authority and the metro. And I also did see or had a question about in my head, and it's not a question I'm asking you. And that question was housing coordination and supportive housing services are two different. I see it homelessness and then there's affordable housing you have to address. So I didn't see the connection and how the number 9 that mentions lack of coordination about homelessness, which I think is a bit of a statement rather than a solution or a strategy to get to problem solving. And then number 10, mentioning the supportive housing funded regional long-term rental assistance. I do think those are two different, and whether you call it a scope creep or overreach, I do think that there are two different things. It's two different problems we're solving here. And I think all of us were at the AOC District 8 meeting, and we did get a polling presentation. I hope it's in our inbox, but I was going to review it back and have a check-in with you and Tanya to sort of go over it. But what I picked up from that presentation was there could be potentially affordable housing bond on the horizon. And although it's projected to 2028, it seemed much more urgent than that. Sooner than that was potentially what we could see on our ballot. So I think there's a lot of conversations that are happening. I don't know. It's a lot for our community to be engaged and to track and to be ahead of this problem before it becomes a money question that we have to answer on our ballots. As much as we can clear the issues and say, this is what this money is for, and this is what this money, and they go hand in hand together, but we shouldn't demonize one and to make way for another.
So if I can ensure that the public is brought along, we had our Association of Oregon Counties District 8 meeting last Wednesday, as pulled together by our state association, District 8 being the 3 metro area counties, Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County. The chair of District 8 asked that a outside consultant come in and present Metro September polling results. And so that outside consultant presented those results. I know I left during probably the middle portion of that presentation as well. We have not had any public communication from the Metro Council, nor any presentation of that polling information about their potential future intent with regard to the affordable housing bond timeline that Commissioner Nafisify just spoke about.
There'll be important context for slide 23 for that additional proposal. And
So is everybody okay on understanding number 10? Thank you. On to 11.
11, sort of similar themed. There's been, they're proposing to create new tools to create a regional affordable housing listing service. This has come up in more of our SHS conversations. We've actually already provided feedback to Metro that we see a need for more online and consolidated information related to vacancies, but not in how it's currently being conceived. So this is more in reaction or to emerging issues in Multnomah County and Portland of having vacant units and wanting to fill them up with folks who are coming out of the shelter system. This is something that we don't have the same similar. We like doing the same kind of coordination. We don't have the same kind of emerging issues that they're facing. And what we would like to see is a regional listing that would be broader in focus. And we don't see this potential tool directly related to housing production. So I suggested it be removed.
I was just doing a time check. We're gonna maybe need to move the pace a little bit here to keep you on schedule. So I've got a few here that I think we can move through fairly quickly. So number 12, the idea of a regional land bank, we think is interesting, but could use some clarification. And so we have a number of questions, sort of, what are the ideas behind who might potentially own and hold the land? Would there be funding for development in addition to potentially land acquisition available? Again, we want to ensure that we avoid any duplicative efforts because we know there's some state work that may already have been happening around some of this, and then again, really wanting to try to understand the lessons learned from the 2018 housing bond and how that might inform the idea of a land banking process. But there are other areas, cities and regions that have done this to some success. So it definitely seems like it's worth exploring, but with those additional clarification points.
Great. And so there will be both a staff response as part of the public comment and then a letter for us to go over in this segment. Any other questions on number 12? Okay, 13.
13. So the idea of a permitting and production dashboard, we support this idea. It could be very helpful in terms of just having the relevant data for all of the entities in the region, just to sort of see how everybody's performing and where we're moving and pulling in that same direction. So again, we just want to ensure that this would avoid any potential duplication of efforts between what's already required potentially at the state level, or that it's just drawing from the data that's being provided to the state and doesn't require separate reporting.
And I want to make sure that in Metro having a dashboard that doesn't increase the frequency by which the county as one jurisdiction has to report dates. So for example, if the state has you reporting it annually, I don't want Metro to start increasing that frequency to quarterly or monthly.
Yes. And those are exactly the kinds of things that I mean when we say we don't want duplication of efforts or yeah, potentially even that increased level of effort. Yep. Thank you.
Number 14.
14. So the urban growth management functional plan housing audit. Again, this is a recommendation that we endorse. We think that it's important that the UGMFP is brought into alignment, obviously, with new state rules, and that the Metro proposal also indicates that it would incorporate or could incorporate outcomes of the future vision process that is just kicking off now. So, and endorsing Impact's role in that process.
I was just going to add that piece. It's It's interesting that MPAC's pulled out on this piece. I would have thought maybe on others as well, but
There could be, and I think in particular, this one clearly falls right into
Right.
PAC's, yeah,
it's a crosshair.
lane of travel. Yeah. Okay. So number 15, I'm going to do my best to channel Aaron Doyle here. Coordinated legislative agenda, and we absolutely agree that that is important, and it's always very helpful to be aligned in terms of our requests and what we think are our regional priorities. So we support this recommendation. Coordination is always key, and so as noted on the slide there's been varying degrees of success with funding and achieving various policy goals. And particularly if we are not all aligned, it just hampers those efforts too. And so Aaron noted in the slide here that the government relations team work already accounts for this level of cooperation and coordination. And so no real additional burden to county staff for that either.
But I also know that since 2007, one of Metro's guiding principles for their regional agenda, for their regional state agenda, has always been under land use, supporting local control. So the response in number 15 right now is consistent with that, but if that principle goes away, so it's all just regional control, then I would have a lot of problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a comment.
Right.
I assume nothing.
Right. Okay. And I mentioned Commissioner Willie earlier, number 15, and when you brought up SDCs, and so I think there was some reference made to looking at things like aligning policies around SDCs and that sort of thing. But one of the staff pointed out for me helpfully that these are really a list of actions that Metro might take, so it doesn't necessarily include requirements on other jurisdictions to do the same.
And I don't think you would find a Metro employee other than Andy Shaw who would remember the whole development cost study that was done. And there was a workshop in 2009. That's what he was hired to do. He's since moved on over the years to a few different roles, but everybody else has changed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
He and I remember it.
Last but not least, the one we do wholly support is Metro's role in doing more testing the waters to see if there's a future for more funding for affordable housing or housing. This would be great to look at testing the waters, and it sounds like you guys have already gotten some updates on polling. But this really is looking at feasibility, so ideally showing what the appetite is for residents for any either affordable housing bond or other funding mechanisms for more housing.
Anything on 16? Onward to the next slide, but yeah, okay, the letter is number 3. When do you want to present the letter? Because I have comments on the letter.
I think we should probably jump right into it.
Does anybody else have comments on the letter?
I have a comment about the letter, but I was surprised that we were recommending removal of the affordable housing listing services. And even with your clarification, I didn't follow. And that ties into the
Number 11.
recommendation in the letter as well.
I think we're not recommending that they should not pursue such an inventory. We're recommending it not be under this particular regional strategy. So we want them to focus on where they see emerging issues and respond to where Multnomah County and Portland is asking them to invest in such a listing. We don't see the same priorities of how they're first rolling it out, but we could see some benefit in some future time. But we see that as more either an SHS or a bond strategy, not tied to production at all. It's tied to more matching big
So the
units.
document that's published is this: develop a centralized regional affordable housing listing services to support housing navigators and seekers in connecting information about available units that meet their needs with an initial focus on building out a portable portal to assist housing navigators working with households in the homeless services system. I'm not sure where the other counties in some of their work they're doing, how it's gonna, like, I don't know that context you're providing around how this only probably applies to one county over to us. But as it is, this information here sounds good, other than the word homeless being mentioned and supportive housing gets looped in. So I don't know, how do we articulate that? Even if
We could maybe make another go at some edits to make it clear that we're just saying this doesn't fit. We don't feel like this fits this body of tied to this regional housing coordination strategy. We see benefits in a listing like this for Washington County further down the road, but we'll continue to monitor and participate with Metro to make sure it has more utility for Washington County with the goals of that laid out in SHS and the housing bots. We don't see the level of vacancy rates as other counties are right now.
So I'd like to add to the context. This is a situation, a recognized situation through conversations of TCPB. So it fits there, but as been highlighted as part of all of this, this regional housing coordination strategy is about getting more housing developed. And this particular item isn't aimed at getting more housing developed. It's getting more existing units filled faster when vacancies come up. So the point is, we agree with the intent that is being worked as part of the regional coordination for the tool set of SHS and working with the housing authorities. It doesn't fit this. As I said earlier, Metro seems to be trying to throw this strategy and all things housing into this HPAC kind of thing. And it's a good topic, wrong initiative to put it in.
thank you.
Do any of you have any comments on the letter? Okay, I'll give you mine. This is, I'm pleased with what you have proposed in this draft letter, okay? But having watched the performance of the current Metro counselors, you have a lot of good points in here, but you're expecting they'll read this simple 2-page letter. And I think there are some points in here that you need to bold so that they'll see them. And I can give you some examples. But first, along the way, in the third paragraph, fourth line, extension, comma, and explore if we can pursue a new affordable housing bond. I would appreciate changing the pronoun to the region. But the next line, these proposals should be addressed at tables with implementing partners, not in the RHCS. That needs to be bolded. You make continued really good, strong points in the next paragraph. The bottom paragraph on page 1, in a time when federal and state housing production investments seem to be slowing, expanding, wait a sec, I'm having trouble not reading my text, but trying to figure out where I was trying to place it, either in the fourth paragraph or the fifth paragraph. what I'm trying to get at is that we can't do this work without full funding and technical support. So, in a time when federal and state housing production investments seem to be slowing, we can't do this added work for the UUAs. We can't do the work as documented, right, without full funding and technical support. So I felt like that statement needed to stand alone before segue into expanding the use of construction excise tax. Then in that same paragraph, the last two lines towards the end of the second to the last line, this will allow us to stack these funding opportunities. I think it would be perhaps improved. This will allow stacking of these funding opportunities. Once again, I'm picking up on a pronoun. Now I'm on page 2. As an agency that works in the planning and permitting space and as a developer, I'm thinking here, instead of just developer, we're an affordable housing or a public housing developer.
I think
Yeah.
clarification of
Yeah, yeah. Our goal is to find effective ways to partner our expertise with your resources to create more attainable housing across the region. Yep. Across the region and in Washington County specifically. Yeah, you don't have to add that. I get it. But I couldn't help myself but writing it. So don't sweat it. The very first sentence in the next paragraph. Similarly, we hope that Metro continues a robust evaluation of successes and challenges that arose through the affordable housing bond projects. I really think you should bold that. Because the fact that it hasn't been done yet, to me, feels like a bad on them. Because a lot has been learned. And I did reread the most recent affordable housing bond annual report, and I just don't feel like it's gotten any visibility. And it should. Just like I've been selling the capital projects 5-year report. Then on that same page, the 4th paragraph, last line, when we develop a shared platform that supports all of our efforts, we are more successful. I think that really should be bolded as well. And then in the next paragraph, we request that you focus on actions and strategies that support local jurisdictions and add value to their work in support of housing production. Because I'm really thinking about what are Metro counselors going to read? I would like them to read the whole letter, but for those who won't, if they just read the bolded statements, I'd be happy with that too.
they'll get the gist of it.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my thoughts, but you're asking us as a board to weigh in on this letter. So
Thumbs up with all the changes.
I'll leave it to staff to follow through on that. The one that I said was a throwaway, I leave it to your discretion.
Okay.
Okay, so that was on your policy question, that was number 3. And on the first question, I didn't hear anybody. Does anybody have any last questions?
I have a question for Molly that is question related about supportive housing services. Now that a potential new affordable housing bond is in the mix, does that mean supportive housing services is safe? There's not any change. providers can feel comfortable to say 2030 is the next time this is gonna, or probably 2019. What are you hearing? What are some timelines that you could share with us?
That's a great question. I think there's a lot. I would say there's still a lot of conversations to be had around a renewal effort. And there's some, I think, efforts by staff to propose some, what they're calling
Metro staff.
What's that?
Metro staff.
Metro, yes, sorry, yes. Metro staff to present some opportunities for what we call streamlined, sort of more governance and with their committee structures, but that hasn't been come back here. It hasn't. It sounds like they were having a conversation with some initial ideas just this afternoon, and we haven't had a chance to look at those materials yet.
So you all have in your inbox a communication from Council President Peterson as sent by Jeff Kane, which talks about their work plan next steps for the months of October and November as it relates just to SHS, and we've had no other documented communication from Metro on potential next steps on an affordable housing bond. Unless you have something we're not aware of.
Oh, so my first time hearing this was at the AOC District 8 meeting through that presentation about the levy. That was sort of demonstrating that there is an appetite to go out for affordable housing bond, and perhaps it could be in 2028 or it could be sooner. So that's where, oh, okay, what does that mean for supportive housing services then? Especially with the whole, it could be changed, the governance or the tax portion of it. So when are we going to put an end to that and say, nothing, we're not touching supportive housing services, we moved on, this is the journey we're going to get on. So that's what I was asking, and I'm not in touch with it.
Sounds like a conversation.
So I would like to reiterate again, the presentation last Wednesday was from an outside consultant, not necessarily there on behalf of the Metro Council. That's all. So Metro, there was no representation by Metro saying they're going to initiate a affordable housing bond at this time. Are we all on that same page? Okay, great. Because we do have information from them with regard to their next steps. And Molly just alluded to October 14th being the current state of the SHS program.
Just a quick update for you all. We did go in front of Metro Council just this morning with our request for one-time only resources from their administrative excess funds, and they did approve unanimously our $10 million request. So things are moving forward.
Good job.
So I think you've got everything you need.
We do. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Great. So I'm just noting that it is now 2:18. So we'll move on to board and leadership communication. Why don't we start with leadership communication? And I know Elizabeth Edwards was planning on attending by Zoom. Could we get her as an attendee that we can see her? So Elizabeth, if you could turn your camera on, please. Terrific. Great. Ms. Angie's going to start off first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board of Commissioners. We are in full swing with levy-related non-advocacy outreach to voters. As Chair, you mentioned, in the state of the county, voters' pamphlets have already arrived in mailboxes countywide. We are hearing that voters have begun receiving the library levy direct mail postcard, and that will soon be followed by the public safety levy postcard later this week. Finally, ballots will be arriving in mailboxes later this week as well. So this is busy. Yes.
You said we are in full swing for levy presentations on non-advocacy? You said?
Yeah.
I only speak to the non-advocacy, the education
Okay,
route of.
the reason I'm asking that is that many of us have participated from an advocacy position as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's-
so she
Yep.
said she was
I
reporting
appreciate
on levy-related non-advocacy activity.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that is the lane you will always hear me speaking.
Yep.
Okay, we are thankful to the board for your help with close to 40 presentations made so far to city councils, service clubs, and other community groups. Board members are also welcome to help with tabling events at farmers markets that have been scheduled between now and the end of the month. Staff has had conversations with 220 voters so far at the farmers markets in Aloha, Hillsborough, and Tigard. Our next opportunity will come tomorrow evening at the Adelante Farmers Market in Forest Grove. I'm shifting to somewhat levy related, but more so along the lines of library funding and governance. I shared an informational email with you yesterday, but want to publicly extend my appreciation to Lisa Tattersall and team. They have been working continuously to update web pages to provide factual information as we've received different questions or correspondence. Yesterday, they completed additional information on the library funding formula. The content can be found at wccls.org/writing-r-future. They continue to look for ways to improve this information and are open to yours or community members' feedback. Last week, Molly Rogers in her presentation to the Housing Authority did mention potential impacts on the government shutdown. I do just want to lift that information up and also to extend it to other areas of Washington County services. For housing services, federal revenue is particularly important for rental assistance programs, public housing subsidies, and grants for continuum of care program. So I'll kind of bucket these in different categories. First, rental assistance. We've received notice from the U.S. Department of Housing from HUD that funding for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Main Street vouchers, and emergency housing will be front-loaded and funded through mid-November. Moving to the public housing subsidy, HUD is anticipating that funding will be available through November. We have submitted draws for funding in advance of the shutdown. Now, on to the continuum of care. These grants are already awarded and should continue regardless of shutdown. To err on the side of caution, staff have submitted draws against our existing award. Now I'm going to move on to Health and Human Services. The Oregon Health Authority is continued to monitor federal legislative developments and impacts on WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children's Program. At this time, we can confirm that local agencies will receive their full monthly grant programs from OHA, the Oregon Health Authority, through October. Funds for food benefits are currently available through at least October 31st. While we're uncertain about November, there is potential for additional federal funding allocation for the use in federal fiscal year 2026 available soon. So for WIC, we know through the end of this month, and then it's been uncertain post October 31st. And then I'll just close, just State of the County. Thank you for the whole board, and especially Chair, your speech and the videos for State of the County. There have been over 275 streams from our YouTube channel so far. A Spanish language version of the presentation will be produced. And that concludes my update.
And hats off to staff for a great State of the County as well.
All right.
Colleagues, you did great. Your video. And thank you for being there. Alex.
Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. Very short update for you today. This Thursday, I'll be touring the Washington County Elections Facility to gain a better understanding of the county's elections process. I didn't coordinate this with Miss Angie beforehand, but it fits very nicely in her. I just want to send a special note of thanks to Dan Forrester because they are busy right now, so he's taking time out of his day to do that for me so I can better understand the process. County Council is aware of some recent unexpected discussions that surprised many counties at the Association of Oregon Counties Health and Human Services Subcommittee meeting. concerning the states and counties' continued negotiations on the County Financial Assistance Agreement, CFAA. Based on that activity, we'll be back in front of your board soon. If you have any questions, please reach out to me directly or Eamon McMahon. Finally, a bit of good news. County Council is beginning interviews to fill its open second litigation position, so we can get a second attorney in to do litigation on the county's behalf. So we expect to bring that successful candidate for your board sometime in the very near future, so you can meet them. And that's all I have for you today.
Great, thank you. Clean Water Services, Elizabeth, you're on.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Clean Water Services Board of Directors. We are coming off of a very busy week last week. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, loud, very loud and
Oh, sorry,
clear.
too much?
Yeah.
Okay. Usually that's not my problem. Usually I'm too soft. So we're coming off of a busy week last week. Thank you all for joining us at our board work session at last Friday at CWS Central. It was a very dense day, as you all know, and we're appreciative of the great discussion and feedback that we received and are already making arrangements for our next session with you all coming up on November 7th. That will be at CWS Central again. Also last week, we had CWAC on Wednesday evening. That was CWAC's first time meeting at CWS Central. We're trying to use the building more and introduce the public to that space. Among other topics that we discussed were the nomination of budget committee members. So we'll be bringing those to the board next week for your consideration. And this is part of our overall work in moving up our budget timeline a little bit earlier to get some greater engagement. And last but not least, I wanted to dovetail a little bit off of what Ms. Angie had shared around the government shutdown. We've been working very closely with Vince Goyak, tracking the impact of the shutdown on federal agencies that CWS coordinates with the most. We'll follow up with more information in writing, but the EPA right now has furloughed 90% of its staff. Huge impact on the folks working there. In contrast, Reclamation is furloughing approximately 25% of its workforce. And so at the Bureau of Reclamation, we have activities related to supply of water and power that should not be affected. However, activities related to grant funding, contracts, regulatory work that may experience some disruptions. Right now, no major issues for CWS, but as the shutdown drags on, we're watching these impacts very closely as they continue to evolve. So that's all for me.
Great, thank you, and thank you for joining us. I know we have a very intense Washington County day today, so thanks for zooming in and your flexibility on our calendar. Any questions on CWS? Nope, great, thanks so much. All right, so now for our board communication, who would like to go first?
I can go first. So I had a chance to last week to meet with Hubble Communications and Jupiter Power on the Blackberry Grove Battery Energy Storage Project, and got an update on that. And so it was good to meet with him. Also had the first time I'd met with on a one-on-one with Rick at CWS. So thank you, Rick, for taking the time to meet. And it's always good to have that conversation. AOC District 8 meeting, I was able to join for about half of it. Very difficult to hear. I'd love to have a better sound ability because there was just a lot of echo and it was hard to keep track of the conversation. But anyway, did that.
Yeah, some of the state lectures said that too. I was wondering.
Yeah, it was just hard.
Commissioner Willie had texted me during the meeting, and part of it I thought was there was a hard floor surface, a vaulted ceiling, and that there were no sound dampening features in that room. There was a lot of glass. So while it was an attractive place to meet. It was not conducive to hosting a hybrid meeting.
Yeah, a lot of the state legislators were saying that couldn't hear. Please be the good. No.
Yeah, and the conversation was hard to follow, but
So that is feedback that if our government relations team or our staff who's coordinating with the district 8 chair can factor into feedback from this year's meeting, because she'll be in charge of next year's meeting too.
yeah, okay. Thursday I was actually went to Bay City on the coast. It was a beautiful day. It's great to drive through the mountains.
Bay City, Oregon.
Bay City, yes.
Huh.
That's where we had our COPAC and our Northwest Act meeting. We rotate that around, of course. Next time, I think it's going to be in Astoria, which is a little further hike. But it's always good to get that. I mean, the mountains are turning their color for fall, and it's beautiful. So it was a nice drive, very sunny day, and we got some good things taken care of with COPAC and Northwest Act. Northwest Act is the administration part of that. Remember, has been taken over by ODOT, and so it was. It's good. There's always good conversation about what is going on, not only at the agency and the funding, but just what is going on in the Northwest District and with our priorities on Highway 6. And just as a security note, if you are driving Highway 6 on the way to the coast, please be careful. I think it's at milepost 35 for about 3 miles. Really, really rough. So take it easy there. And I won't get this correct, but every winter, ODOT has a team that basically adds more pavement to the spots that are sliding. So it slides about 6 inches. They're out there at 5 o'clock in the morning before the truck traffic and everything else, putting new pavement on it. And then, of course, new pavement's heavier, so it causes it to slide again. So it's, but there's no money to really do the correct fix. So anyway.
Recycle.
Yes, just be careful if you're going to drive Highway 6. Then, of course, Washington County State of the County Address. That was very good, Catherine. I thought everybody did, and it was well attended. So that was fun to do that. CWS, of course, their board work session on Friday. Yesterday I spoke to the Washington County Public Affairs Forum. They were asking for me to kind of talk about how I got into politics, and because because I'm not running for re-election, they were just asking for a little bit of a go back and do a refresh. So I started in 1983 when we moved to Hillsborough and moved on current. So it was good. They also ask a lot of questions.
Who is this?
Washington County Public Affairs Forum.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Better. I would appreciate hearing what the questions were so I can prepare, because they've asked me to come in and I am not at all prepared to reflect backwards because I'm still running through the tape.
I can do that. There wasn't. There was a couple in there that I'll advise you on at what they're going to ask. So that'll be good. Tonight, 6 o'clock, I have the Sevenberry Trail Foundation board meeting. Tomorrow, I have the check-in with the sheriff's office. And let's see, Friday, the Oregon Fairs Association Convention banquet dinner is Friday night, and I will certainly be attending that. And on Saturday, I've been asked to make a presentation to Boy Scout Troop in support of the Eagle Badge Project, and they were asking about my time in the military, so that's on Saturday. So there we go.
Great. Who's next?
I will go. So last Sunday, I attended the Congresswoman Bonamici's Washington County Town Hall and the electeds pre-meeting. Those are always informative. Last Monday night, acre meeting where we talked about the community engagement framework. We also talked about the plan to use espousal through the through the establishment of and review forward. The Wednesday, we had the AOC District 8 meeting. We've talked about that. I was there in person and I could hear everything. That doesn't mean you wanted to hear everything.
Glad to hear that.
And then last week, I also attended a community open house for the Blackberry Grove project. And I attended just to hear what community input was at that point.
And that was the developer meeting.
It was the developer community, yes. Yes. The state of the county was excellent. Thank you, staff, one more time from me as well. Friday was the Clean Water Services Board work session, and I thought that was really good, and there was a lot of good discussions, and it's nice to be at the central building. I wrapped up last week on Saturday with a levies briefing to the American Association of University Women's Local Branch, and that was a good meeting. There were probably 25 people there, and I was supported there by a deputy, and I'm blanking on his name, and also PJ from WCCLS. Then let's see. Yesterday was the AOC Legislative Committee meeting. I attended that, and there was a discussion about the CFAA that I think we will get more information about. And then I went to the in-person CPO7 meeting, which included, again, a levies briefing. The sheriff was there as well. And we also had Peter Leonard, the director of Cedar Mill Bethany Libraries, and Lisa Tattersall in attendance. This evening is the CPO 1 meeting, and that is going to be on Zoom. It's the meeting that is in regard to the Cornell Road Transitional Housing Project. It's going to be a briefing on Zoom. I expect there will be a large attendance there.
Just pause on that. It's my understanding they're doing that in a webinar style. So staff is presenting. I know I'm planning to attend to listen, as is Commissioner Treese. Are any other board members planning on listening in?
Did you say that was tonight?
Yes, at 7 o'clock.
I have the Public Health Advisory Committee from 5:30 to 7:30. So after it's done, the meeting's still happening. I'm not joined.
Salmonberry Trails from 6 to 7:30, so I could jump on it.
It's not required.
No, it'll be an interesting conversation.
I think if I'm mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're there to listen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's important is we're there to.
Well, that's
to
what I
listen
want
to
to
the
hear what that dialogue has been too.
Yeah.
So to make sure. And since the Mariners have an off night tonight, well, that's
Glad you have your
there
priorities.
you go. Right.
So thank you for letting me interrupt.
Certainly. Tomorrow morning, I have a call with constituent Bruce Bartlett just to check in, and then I'm meeting with SOAR Immigration Legal Services at their request. Thursday, I plan to join the Wood Spring Apartments renovation kickoff, and on Friday, I'll be attending the Portland State University and PCC MOU signing. It's busy. There's been lots of levy briefings.
Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. I was at the AOC District 8 meeting too, a lot of good conversations. The state of the county was very well done. I joined that. Kudos to the staff. Chair Harrington, you did a very good job and I appreciate it. And it was a nice surprise to see Chair of Multnomah County there. I've learned a lot, and I tell you, as soon as I went home, I was so tired. Clean Water Services Learning Day was a lot of information, good information, a lot more deep diving to do. So that was last week, and then AOC's Health and Human Services Steering Committee, and that's the comments Alex was referring to. Yesterday was WCCC meeting. A lot of the topics are also on the JPAC meeting, which is happening this week as well. And cooling corridors study, there is no action. So stop me if you don't want me to tell you what's on the agenda, but a lot of good information in terms of what's going to be presented. The Regional Emergency Transportation Routes Phase 2 project is going to come and they're going to give an update, and that's informational only. The one action our board is taking that has been on WCC's agenda and on JPAC's agenda is Forward Together, the Road Ahead, and Planning for Service Cuts. That is the TriMet, what TriMet is currently doing around public outreach about the planned service cuts, and the open survey asking participants to rank 9 potential transit service cuts in order of preference. Obviously, the one action our board has to take is there's a board letter in terms of articulating our position of where we stand with these cuts and how we don't support the initial plan service cuts that would scale back improvements only recently implemented, and that would result in Washington County riders facing less frequent and potentially fewer transit options overall. But there are 2 proposed options we have concerns. So there is a letter on our packet that the staff put together that the chair will review with us after all this. So, and then I plan to put that on the record tomorrow to articulate where the board is. Not the whole letter, but the points we want them to remember.
Well said.
And then tonight I have the public health advisory that I do plan to join after.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fye. I'll try to go quickly. First on the TriMet letter. Any questions or requested changes?
I thought it was a good letter.
Yep,
Yeah.
me too. Okay, all thumbs up, great. Then I also wanted to do the courteous thing and bring forward to your attention, it's in your inbox a couple of different times. CPO 8 has had some activities that do not follow Washington County or necessarily state requirements for public meetings. You are familiar with how I sent a letter in July of 2024. Since then, there was a September 8th letter to CPO 8 and now an October 9th letter to CPO 8. I messed up a little bit in terms of the email addressing. So when I originally sent it to the CPO chair and the other 2 leaders, I thought I was getting your email address in the to or the CC, and I saw a version where I put it in the title. So it took a couple of attempts for me to write
But I
that.
got it.
Okay,
I got it.
perfect. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Interesting response. Kind of a pushback.
On them, you mean?
Them. Well, maybe it was the
I haven't
previous
seen
letter.
it.
Maybe if it was the September one that I saw, but they were.
Yeah. And kudos to our community engagement, access and opportunity leadership, as well as our legal counsel for the drafting of this response. Last Thursday, thank you all again on the state of the county, and after that was the Community Development Policy Advisory Board. I thought I would be tired for that meeting, and I was in fact tired. Did my best on Zoom, but then at 8:30, after we did the main bulk of the work, when it switched to roundtable conversation, I went from participating like this on Zoom to so I had to leave at 8:30. So just wanted to be clear on that. Vice Chair Trees, you're on point. I will be out of the office Thursday through Sunday, out of the state for personal time away, heading back to New Hampshire for my mom's celebration of life. So
I
you're
thought I was going to be attending a PAB meeting. That's
no. I would have given you more
Thank you.
advance notice on that. No packet involved. And then I just want to highlight for everyone's benefit, we have an awful lot of events going on right now, and I really appreciate staff due diligence in making sure we've got some good continuous reinforcement of what it is, the event, the topic, the date. So we have tonight the Cornell Road transitional housing project we've talked about. Commissioner Treese mentioned the Wood Spring event Thursday. On Monday, there's multiple road projects down in the Sherwood, Roy Rogers Road area. And then a week from this Friday, the ribbon cutting for the Beaverton Recovery Center of CAT. So a lot of really exciting, positive stuff going on. So hats, big clap for all of our staff involved with all of those activities. Whew, I'm done. I was hoping to hit the 2:45 mark, but I'm a couple minutes over. So that's it for board and leadership communication. For our agenda, we have 2 executive sessions. So at this juncture, we will be completing our public portion of our work session today. And I will go through the proper procedures on appropriate action to call and open and then adjourn for each exec session. So I'm going to start with the first one. Executive, do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub H for the purposes of discussing potential litigation?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. We're hereby adjourned to our first of 2 executive sessions.